The Celtics Talk podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com, 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? Postgame pod. Kayla riding shotgun after the Celtics take down the San Antonio Spurs 121-111. Now 5-0 on the road trip. Kayla, I'm just going to brace you. Usually I try to keep the intro to about 10 minutes. I'm looking at my clock over here. I might go for an hour on Luke Kornet.
You deserve this. You deserve this. You said it in post game, and you deserve this. He deserves this. This guy is
amazing, right?
So fun to watch.
It's so fun in so many different ways. So you'll hear his walk-off interview with Abby coming up later. They hyped it up in the as we were getting ready to tape, and I think it unfairly put a lot of pressure on Abby to deliver. And Luke did geometric angles.
It was so good.
He barked like a dog with Al Horford barking in his background, and he talked in Spanish.
Talked in Spanish,
So,
and then made a football reference.
All in the course of maybe 90 seconds, which was just a power-packed Luke Kornet night.
I thought that was the most fascinating post-game interview Abby has ever done and I've ever heard. Like, I just wanted to keep listening to him, being like, where is he going next with this?
What we learned last week when we got Luke to sit down and do a bunch of shenanigans with us is that just put a microphone in front of the man and
let him go.
I don't even have to ask good questions. You just kind of Abby did a great job. Pretty much for me, it was just roll the ball out there. And Luke's going to make magic happen, kind of like he did in this game. 15 points, 16 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds, plus 21, which is a game high by far, in 31 minutes, 14 seconds. No Al Horford, no Peyton Pritchard. Luke Kornet saying, bench, get on my back. I will carry you. And played in crunch time with Kristaps Porzingis on the floor. No Jaylen Brown, who was on a minute restriction. Some of the Celtics' best minutes in the second quarter was with Luke out there. Kayla, the big question, should I be surprised anymore?
No. I don't think anyone should be surprised because his charisma, his personality, him saying throughout the season, I am, what's your expertise? And he's saying, I'm emotionally available. That's what he did there on the court. He's emotionally available. He's so unselfish the way he plays.
Emotionally and physically available.
Both, everything. I mean, what he's able to do, those stats scream unselfish player. And I think that's what Joe Mazzulla and this front office and the team, they love about him. He doesn't need to have, 20 plus points a night. He can have 6 points. He can have less than that. And for him to have 7-0 boards, a career high 16 boards total, and just to protect his guys and to go just be that spark in the center. I mean, that's what you want when it comes to a role player out of Luke Kornet, and he showed that.
So coming into tonight, 47% of Luke's rebounds had been on the offensive. That's the highest number for any high-volume guy, over 900 minutes this year. He leads the Celtics at 154 coming into the game, so he's now at 161. Second place is Peyton Pritchard at 93. So he's
is that a surprise?
But one, it's funny because I'm like, oh my God, Peyton Pritchard is second on this team in offensive rebounding. You forget KP misses a ton of time. The bigs have different roles, but it is a little bit jarring to see. But to be essentially, if he's at 161 plus 7, 68 rebounds ahead of the next closest is crazy. The Celtics are 30-6 now 31-6 when Luke plays 16 plus minutes this year, 24-13 when he doesn't. And he's 5th in the NBA in net rating. I was bringing this up on our postgame show. All the nerd metrics tell you that Luke is awesome.
Let me ask you this. Compared to last year, for where he is now, where do you see his growth the most?
So, Luke was very good last year. He just had periods of inconsistency. I think maybe at the right start of the year, he had an ankle injury or something, I believe. It kind of opened the door for Nemish K to get minutes. And a lot of people fell in love with Nemi's play style, which is obvious. He's just kind of hyperactive and, but Luke's basketball IQ is off the charts. He has completely revolutionized his game. He did that last year. He understood he's long since abandoned the 3-point stuff, but, maybe not the best at finishing rebounds. He would go up, he had good instincts, but he maybe didn't get it. This year it just feels like he's so much more, I don't know if confident is the right word because Luke Kornet doesn't lack for confidence, but
just in rhythm.
It just, yeah.
He's letting the game come to him. He's not forcing it.
Part of the reason he came back here was because he understood his value to this team and that he would get a ton of time and that, he could go play for, let's say, the Golden State Warriors or the Detroit Pistons or whoever, and he would have been good there. But would they have valued him as much as the Celtics do? Would he have gotten as much time because he knew KP was going to be injured to start the year, that Al needed to rest on second nights of back-to-back, and kind of vital to be the third center? And so I just think that comfort has helped him take even another step in his progress. I don't know if the new long hair. I don't know if Luke.
It is long.
I don't know if Luke.
You
just,
and the mustache, him with the hair.
I
It's
know.
working. It's working.
Sometimes when things are rolling, you don't want to mess with it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think when he came in for the interview, I forget if it was him. It might have been. He said, he kind of looked at himself and said, "Oh, I really got to get this cut." And I said, "No, man. Like, just let it go.
Just let it go.
You know, like sometimes you tap into something. Maybe a mullet or whatever else he wants to grow. Like could rock out. But no, Luke is just. I don't think there's a huge difference from last year to this year. I just think there's more opportunity. I think he's been maybe a little bit more consistent in the way that he's played. You don't hear the conversation anymore. Neemi's been great as a fourth center, but no one's sitting there saying that Luke shouldn't be the third guy, or and he's playing a ton of minutes, and they've been great with the double big, and he knows how to make the Celtics' best players better. Yeah. Like when he's out there with Tatum, they have this weird chemistry for two guys that don't. I mean, they play a lot of minutes because Luke's with that Tatum in the bench lineup, but they just have that little connection that no other big man has quite tapped into the way that Luke has.
What makes the Celtics so hard to go up against is not only because they're defending champs, that's kind of redundant, and it's true, but the different rotations that they have and how effective they are within those rotations. Like, you see Al Horford sit out tonight, no problem. Let's have Luke step up. Let's have Kristaps Porzingis, Peyton Pritchard. And then, okay, when Luke's not playing, Al Horford and KP, and then we sprinkle in Luke there, and then, okay, maybe it's not Luke's night. Here comes Nimi, and then Xavier is going to be available. There's so many different weapons. And we talked about, and I may be a dead horse when I say, how deep this team is, but really, when you go up against the Celtics, you just, no matter who you're going to get, no matter who is available, if the Jays have been out only a couple of times, but even Jayson Tatum, who seemingly had a quiet night and still he finished 29,
10-8,
10-8,
Crazy.
And he wasn't even the main focal point of tonight because you have Luke.
You have Jayson Tatum, legitimate top 3 MVP guy, going for pretty much 30, 10, and 10 every night now. And we're like, Luke Kornet and Peyton Pritchard are so good.
Right, right.
But it accentuates how good that bench has been. And my big teaser was going to be, how people always try to drum up drama on these podcasts and stuff like that. I was going to be like, coming up after the break, is Luke Kornet actually the 6th man of the year?
Oh, boy.
No, I couldn't do Peyton dirty like that. But it is a ridiculous luxury that Luke, Sam, and Peyton have been so good. They each sort of know when it's their turn to ball out, and on a night where they had a clear height advantage over the Wemby-less Spurs, Luke was ready to go. I got one other nerdy number for you. So ESPN debuted this new metric called net points. Net points, and it's one of their stat guys, Dean Oliver. He's made a bunch of cool stat models, and the goal is always kind of to distill down everything a player does, and to a digestible number. And so this takes their offensive impact, their defensive impact, their stats. It all crams it together and tries to tell us who the best players in the NBA are. What's funny is Luke Kornet, there's 450 players in the NBA. Where would you rank Luke Kornet in that mix? In a vacuum, you'd say 30 teams, 15 players per team. But, okay, starting 5, he's not a starting 5 guy, so you eliminate the top 150. You could potentially say he's a top 200 player in the NBA.
Yeah, I would say. Well, now because I feel like I'm.
No,
doing
where I'm about to zag
let's
you.
say 115.
Yeah, which would be a great number, even in 115.
And 115 is really generous. If you didn't give me that, I would have said 270. I hate to say it, or 220.
I would think you would, for a bench big man, you would say middle of the pack somewhere. Yeah. He's 20th.
Dude's 20th? 20th? He's 20th?
I think he's behind only Tatum in terms of net points.
I end up disrespecting
now,
him like that?
And here's and just to accentuate, here are the let's say 4 players that are directly in front of him. James Harden, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Wemby.
That's amazing.
That's
a good bunch
so,
to be ahead of.
Again, it's accentuated because the Celtics outscore their opponent by so much when he's on the court, and their defense is so much better when he's out there that it's over exaggerating maybe like his full impact, but stats don't lie.
Stats don't lie, and he's using the quality of his minutes. Like, he doesn't need to have 25-plus minutes, 30-plus minutes, 37. You know, he can live with 12 minutes one night, 20 minutes the other night, 24 minutes. Like, the minutes
I don't know.
can waver.
That number says 16-plus minutes, 31-6. We need to make sure he's out there, like, at least 20 minutes a night now.
Quality. He's a quality guy. The Celtics should be lucky. They are lucky to have this man in-house.
Men lie. Women lie. Stats don't lie. And Luke Kornet is fantastic and amazing. And I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to cut it off at 10 minutes there. I'm going to go to our post-game show because it's pretty much all Luke Kornet. Yeah. And you're going to hear from Luke Kornet. Aki.
Are you ready to enter the realm of affordable luxury? Drew Carter here at 24 Infinity of Plymouth, your go-to destination for affordable luxury.
Right now, lease a new Infinity QX60 Lux for just $569 a month. Or lease a new QX80 Sensory for $1099 a month.
Ready to trade and upgrade? You'll get top dollar for your trade. Visit 24 Infinity of Plymouth at 151 Samoset Street and online at 24infinityofplymouth.com.
As promised, Luke Kornet, your post-game interview courtside with Abby Chin.
Luke, you knew the Spurs team was going to be undersized all night. How were you able to use your length to your advantage?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to be physical. Obviously, they kind of played smaller and stuff, and so just trying to use our advantages as a team and really crush offensive glass. Yeah.
I mean, you lead this team in offensive rebounds, but you took it to another level tonight. A career high, on the boards. Talk me through the art of the boards for you.
As I said pregame, Los Perros están aquí. The dogs are here tonight. Little San Antonio flair. I took geometry in high school. Shout out to Coach Schofield, rest in peace. Angles, trig, alternate interior angles theorem, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But this has certainly been an emphasis for you this season, right? How do you get better at that?
Start caring less about yourself physically and just launching yourself into the trenches. I feel like I'm a left guard, basically, of basketball, so I try to take pride in that, protect my guys, enforce, those types of things.
Offensive linemen are a different breed, so I appreciate that.
I think offensive linemen are like the best people in sports, frankly. Like a little bit crazy, but also just like take care of their guys and are completely like, hey, it's what I do,
All about the team.
Yeah.
Speaking of the team, you guys have won 5 straight on the road, 8 overall. Where are you as you start building for the postseason?
I think this last little stretch we've just been trying to be cool, just like winning in different ways, and we played a big group of teams with like a lot of variance and stuff like that. We got some barking going on. That's pretty neat. So just trying to like meet the challenge and meet the battle at hand, and just especially just winning the margins and winning kind of the physical aspect of the game.
Awesome. You want to bark before you go? Bark us out.
Los Perros están aquí in San Antonio.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. So he's hearing the barks from the crowd, heard it from Al Horford as well as he was walking by. Drew, you had said it was going to be Luke Kornet, and the interview lived up to the hype. We got Drew Carter and Scal now. What's up, fellas?
A lot of highlights from Luke during the game, a lot of highlights in his post-game presser. I just want to know how many people on planet Earth could get 16 rebounds in an NBA game. Talk about interior triangle angle theorem, speak Spanish, and talk about how they're the enforcer and they're throwing their body into the trench. He is one of a kind.
And shout out offensive linemen as the greatest people in all of sports. All of sports, offensive linemen.
How many offensive linemen do you know?
I don't know many.
They are the salt of the earth.
Are they?
They're great. They're hilarious. They're a little crazy, but he's right. They're selfless.
All right. Well, I guess
to sign up for that, you got to be crazy and
all of sports. All of sports.
We'll do a power ranking.
Team sports.
We'll do a power ranking.
All of team sports. He was dominant today, and you could see, I don't know if it's because they were small and he said, I'm going to dominate today, or if it's one of those things like Eddie House could be in in the zone to knock down a shot. Luke Kornet could be in a zone to get every rebound too. Like, he was just moving differently today. Even early on, before he had his career high, I'm like, this guy is almost getting every offensive rebound that's available. And 7 offensive rebounds, that's no joke. And so I thought he was dominant. But the Celtics in general, when they played this way, and you can kind of go to the month of March, yeah, no one's beating this team 4 times out of 7. When they're moving the ball like this, shooting like this, being physical, rebounding, like, they did everything right today.
Yeah, 32 assists for the Celtics tonight on 45 made shots. Dominated the glass, a plus 19 in the rebound category. I think the great thing about this team, Scal, one of many, is Jaylen Brown's on a minutes restriction, so he leaves with like 4 minutes left. So you're thinking, who's going to replace Jaylen Brown? Nobody can. Well, Luke Kornet comes in and they just change how they play, right? Then they go double big.
Think about it. Like, the 6th man is out, Al Horford's out. Like, you know, they have so many options. And, I mean, you got to give, like, this is Brad Stevens, Joe Mazzulla, and all the way down. Like, anybody that helps these guys get better, they're the ones that also get some of the credit, because you could pick the right guy, but if you don't work with him, it doesn't work. If you don't help this guy get better and find out his role and try to be a star in his role, it doesn't work. If Luke Kornet doesn't put on 25 pounds of muscle from the Australians, it doesn't work, right? So everyone's important, and you can just see, like, this, with so many different guys having their opportunities, we do think that the whole step-up thing, but it is truly remarkable how everyone who really does get a chance seems to be playing their best basketball.
Yeah, there is a formula for the type of person the Celtics bring in to play for this team, and it's somebody who, A, has high character, and B, can improve quickly and take coaching and implement it. And that's what Luke Kornet is. And it's not just the coaching, but it's the strength staff and everyone around him. I mean, we love to talk about Luke, but obviously a bunch of guys played really well for the Celtics tonight, Giles. And how about that graphic? I mean, 55-plus wins for 3 straight years. First time since the Bird era. Larry Bird, his first 9 years in the NBA, won 55 or more games. That's pretty sick.
Shots falling, does it mean the finger's feeling better?
You know, finger, it is what it is. It's kind of weird, just feeling like you have 4 fingers on one hand, just based off the tape and the brace and everything, but I'm not too worried about it.
Was it still a mallet? Like, have you taken the tape off?
You can't.
Was it ever?
You can't bend it, because if you bend it, then you have to put it back in the cast for another 6 weeks. So I keep it straight all the time. Yeah, I don't know.
How does that, like, when you're at home, or do you just have to get used to just not doing things with that hand, or how do you kind of manage it?
You know what I'm saying? It's just like if you lost a finger, I guess, or a pinky. You don't really need it, but since it's there, I'd rather have it and use it.
Of course.
I like the pinky toe. It's underrated. It does a lot. You're telling me the pinky finger in your hand?
Yeah, a pinky toe, that might throw you off a little bit, maybe if you walk, but nah, I've seen some good shooters that only have 4 fingers. So.
The last few days been like dealing with your ankle and getting it ready to play?
Been bored, but I'm glad that it recovered and healed in a good way, that I was able to come back out here and rejoin with the team.
It looked pretty scary initially, but walked out of the locker room without a boot or anything. Did you know pretty quickly that it was going to be okay?
Yeah, just initial reaction, same ankle out and twisted a handful of times, and you heard something pop, so it was painful and kind of like a shock factor. But once I got up and was able to put weight on it and walked out off the court, I didn't think it would be too long of an absence.
How did it feel tonight? I mean, it seemed okay, flirting with the triple-double.
Yeah, just always, I guess, a mental part of coming back, when you just kind of injure something. It felt fine for the most part. But as I keep playing, I think it'll feel better. But that's part of it, right? Nobody in this locker room feels 100%. It's part of what we do. Everybody's dealing with something. So, just find opportunity we can fight through it.
So what are the goals in the last 8 games? I mean, besides rest and remaining healthy, what do you guys want to do?
Continue playing great basketball. I think we've done that over the last couple of weeks. Get everybody feeling in a good rhythm, and essentially get ready for war.
How much have you been enjoying watching the Duke playoff runs on both sides?
It's been great. The men's team just got their spot in the Final Four. I think the women's team plays tomorrow. So looking forward to hopefully having both teams in the program, make it to the Final Four.
How nice is it to have a guy like Luke Kornet on a night with Kristaps dealing with foul trouble and knowing back there?
Yeah, big shout out to Luke. Somebody I built a great connection with out there on the court. He makes my job a lot easier out there. Just a very smart basketball player. Always knows where to be. Has a great feel for the game. Can defend. Makes the right pass. Finish at the rim. Lob threat. So it's just it's a great feeling for our team when our big fella is in foul trouble and Luke can come in and we can keep it rolling. He can play at a really high level.
Just how critical is it for Jrue just to be dropping that 3 ball and just kind of getting back to himself? How critical is that for you guys?
Yeah, it's super important. Like I said, you want everybody feeling in a good rhythm on both ends of the floor. You want them feel like they're in shape, hitting shots. And Jrue's been playing extremely well as of late. And when he's knocking down shots and being aggressive, we just that much tougher to guard.
How much pride are you taking in this road record? You guys have, if you win out or even just lose one, you set the franchise record for best road record. Is that something you think about?
I ain't know the record or whatever, but I'm just taking pride in being able to win games on the road. I've said it a lot that regardless of whatever your standing is, come playoff time, you want to win a championship, you're going to have to win some games on the road. So get some good practice in now.
It's 2 years in a row now where your guys' standings are mostly locked up in March, but you're still winning most of your games. What's kind of the mindset of knowing that maybe you're not going to necessarily make the number 1 seed, but you still don't want to come out flat any of these games?
Just controlling what we can control. We're not worried about anything else, but besides us playing great basketball every single night, following the game plan and whatever, we trying to, attack or achieve that night. We challenging ourselves right now. So the main focus is, whatever game is in front of us.
Jayson, the commercial with the little boy who plays you, did you have a choice of like who that was? Did he look like you? Did you look at him and go, it looked like me when I was a kid? Like, what was that like when you see now, like somebody playing Jayson Tatum?
Yeah. I met him. I hung out with him that day. Him and his dad was there. Good people. He looked like me when I was a kid. So that was dope. And commercial came out great.
When Luke broke out the Spanish, I in the moment I didn't even. It just kind of. So the other thing that's kind of funny is
off, like the tongue.
To pull back the curtain a little bit, in our building tonight, Telemundo was doing a Celtic broadcast, and I believe it's the first game they've done this year. And I felt bad because Al Horford's not playing. One of the key guys that would, and they had talked to him in the lead up and all that. And then by pure chance,
don't worry,
Luke decides to drop a little Spanish.
Luke Kornet, Luke Kornet, Español un poquito. Like this man was speaking Spanish. It was rolling off the tongue naturally, and he closed out that interview with Abby in Español.
It was
so
amazing.
naturally.
And Al, to keep the theme going, walked by in the background and gave some barks. It was just a magical moment.
He shouted out his, I don't even know if it was his elementary school teacher or his math professor.
And he definitely nailed the name and remembers everything.
This man's a legend with those interviews.
He is just a treasure. All right, Kayla, you brought up the stat on PostGame Plus. The Celtics, a chance for the first 6-0 road trip in franchise history.
That's crazy to think about.
Right.
We had to ask Mark and our crew, Max and Jim, like, are you guys sure? Like, the first time ever?
We don't like to question Dick Leip, our stat guy, but it seems so improbable that the Celtics haven't had a stretch where they went 6-0 on the road. Now, remember, there's not a lot of 6-game road trips over the course of a season.
That's true.
I would say maybe once a year you do 5-6 games. But they had said that the closest was something like maybe the 90s, 5-1. And it's hard to win on the road. except if you're the 2024-25 Boston Celtics, who just make it routine and who are steamrolling towards not only a franchise record for winning percentage on the road, but potentially matching, I think, the Warriors, the mark we were talking about in pregame. It's kind of ridiculous how good they are on the road.
And they're taking pride in it. They're taking pride. I think that's it is kind of like at first when we saw, okay, they're 21-4 or whatever their record was early on the road. Like they're like, okay, we're really good road dogs. Like we're really great on the road, and they wanted to be better at home. But I love that they haven't let up. Like they are continuing to just dominate on the road. For them to get 6 straight, and Jayson Tatum tweaking his ankle on Monday and missing a game, and they're still winning without him and coming back. Like this team. They have a different mentality that they're tapping into, whether it's on the road. I really hope that they close it out, and obviously with John Morant's John Morant. But when you have the Grizzlies who have that head coaching change right now, it's going to be like, okay, how are they going to respond to this?
Taylor Jenkins won't be there, but we'll see who is for the Memphis Grizzlies. And they're still 5th in the West. Been a wild week, but I don't know. Road Celtics are just on a different level. I think why it's so endearing too is that unlike last year when you just steamrolled everybody, you knew you're going to be the top seed, knew you're going to have home court through the entirety of the playoffs. This year you start looking ahead, and while we don't like to look too far ahead, you would potentially have to go on the road against the Cavs, or you would have to go on the road to open up against Oklahoma City if the top seeds were to win out in their brackets. And so I think normally you'd be like, man, that puts you in a little bit of a tough spot. But you don't feel that way with the Celtics.
No.
Because they just don't have any fear going into somebody else's building, and that they're going to take care of business.
So what's the only fear when you look? Okay, we have is it 9 or 8 more regular season games now?
I think we're down to they're 55 and 19, so 8 left.
8
to go.
left. What's the biggest fear with this? I mean, health, yes. Other than health,
right? That like when Tatum goes down, you're like,
no, seriously. I mean, oh my gosh, our hearts draw. Like you almost fell out of your chair. I think the whole Celtics nation almost, held their breath.
Other than that,
do you have a fear?
I don't, and Eddie is always very boisterous about his feelings about where this team is going to end up, and I agree with him. Like, it's hard to envision, and the one thing that he says that always kind of brings me back when I have any concern is, what team is beating you 4 times in 7 games? Yeah, you might trip up once, you might have a bad, off shooting night, you might lose a couple of games in a series, although they didn't do it last year.
Right.
It just feels like this team is well positioned to continue that success, and I just don't understand. I always kind of run it through my set. What would have to happen? So I think there was a few things. The bench could, bench players are a little bit hit and miss in the playoffs. If
true.
Boston's bench fades, that puts a lot of pressure on your starters to carry you. You need that group to be good, if nothing else, then to maintain the high level. Starters have to be a little bit better. They haven't been world beaters coming out of the start of games, end of games. But Joe seems to understand. Like, he's not afraid to tweak it and put in those sub lineups. So I fear the cold streak, I guess would be the easy answer. All of a sudden you go cold shooting the ball, or some lineups aren't working. But do I think that's going to persist over 7 games? Probably not.
I could see 2, and then they cut it, and they're like, all right, let's not.
You can put yourself in a tough spot. Let's say you open up in Cleveland, you lose 1 out of 2 up there to start, and then you come home and you hit the cold streak.
Right.
Now it's an uphill grind to get through a playoff series. But look. They didn't have a whole lot of cold streaks last year during the playoffs. They were pretty damn good. I don't know. Do you have any fears of what might happen?
I don't have. I think kind of what you were saying, like
and
the
fear's
bench.
not the right word. It's just like if you're trying to figure out what can actually trip up this team, what would it be?
The bench for sure. You just hit on that, because I think you need to have like full team strength. Like the Jays can only do so much. Kristaps Porzingis is going to be that, stretch 5 is going to be great in the paint, and they can score points in the paint, but also he can hit some threes. But like, if that doesn't get going, you need guys like Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser to come off the bench and be 100%. Effective. It's Luke Kornet, please continue to play the way
we
you
need a Luke
Kornet
game.
We need a Luke Kornet game. I think too. I hope that the Celtics look at what they've done throughout this regular season and go into the postseason and say, look, we are the best team in the NBA on the road. We are hopefully by the time, we have the next podcast that they go 6 straight on the road in that stretch. And they say, hey, we're not going to collapse now. Like, this is the time where we seal the deal. We turn that corner on the last, corner of the track and hit the straightaway. And so I think that It's health, and then I mean, obviously, I think the Cavs just in the Eastern Conference can be tough, and they already have that number 1 spot
for sure.
But
and, look, for long stretches of the season, they've been very good, and they've given us trouble. And Donovan Mitchell is a killer, and you just got to be ready for those sort of things. I don't know. I see it over short spans of potential trip up. But man, if they're healthy,
hard to beat this team's chemistry too. They just are in sync, and
it does matter. I do think look, chemistry can only take you so far.
Yeah, true.
But it also can help in those moments where things get tight. When you do hit that adversity, like how do you respond? You could be a team like the Memphis Grizzlies and have to fire your coach and try to shuffle things up a little bit.
Let me say this. I do think my one hesitancy, I need Jrue Holiday to play. Because what's the stat? When he has 14-plus points, they're like 52 and 3, I believe it was. We need Jrue to have at least 12 or 14 or more points in the postseason on a regular basis. Then I don't have a worry. Stats
don't lie. As long as we get Luke 16-plus minutes and Jrue 14-plus points, basically the Celtics are undefeated.
I lie, you lie.
Stats don't
lie.
We'll do less lying when we were back here on Monday night after the Grizzlies game. We'll see, Kayla. We'll see if we'll be celebrating a 6-0 trip or.
By the way, my win streak here in the Celtics Talk pod.
Oh.
You gotta have. I mean, knock on wood, but I will show up.
Kind of out of control. You really started off the year rough. You're like the Celtics in a nutshell. Had that little rough patch in January, February.
I'm still a rookie, man.
I know.
That's what happens. I gotta pay my dues.
Look, you turned it up, and your poor dinner is sitting over there after you got it delivered from
It was worth it.
Somewhere in northern Maine.
It's probably melting. Melting in the plastic bag.
Go like, go subscribe, go check us out on the YouTube page. We'll catch you Monday night on the Celtics Talk podcast.